I think we're about ready to start. Brett, are things good from your perspective back there? Okay, and Courtney, things are good from your perspective over here. So welcome. I am Jane Shapiro, Chair of the Steering Committee of 100+ Women Who Care Cheshire County, and welcome to the 22nd meeting of our 100+ chapter. You heard me say at the beginning, Courtney, are you a go? And Brett, are you a go? Brett's in the back, and she's working the sound system here in the hall, and also the screen that you see up behind me. And Courtney is working on Zoom, and I think we have about 25 people who are joining us on Zoom. So that's nice to know. I'll look at the camera and tell you we're really glad you're here. This is our second hybrid meeting with members, I just said that, with members attending here in person and on Zoom. And I just really want to commend your steadfastness and your commitment to this giving circle, which is dedicated to making a difference in our community through the power of collective giving. Thank you. As of this afternoon, we are 314 members. We have continued to receive donations from nearly 100% of our membership for each meeting, which is incredible. And all right, well, it takes some reminding and some prodding along the way, which we do. And we're now into a system where we send weekly reminders. So every Monday or Tuesday morning, those of you who have not yet sent in your check or done your online donation will get an email. And your goal is to not be among the people who get those emails. So I'd like to welcome by name those who have joined either at or since our last meeting. And if you're here, could you stand so those of us who are here know who you are and can welcome you after the meeting? Judith Boses, Jolie Fanning, and Karen Ravina. Well, Jolie, welcome. Yes.
Someone who joined this evening.
Oh.
And her first name is Terry.
Terry has joined this evening. Welcome, Terry. Additionally, I know that we have a number of guests with us this evening, so I want to extend a special welcome to you as well. To those of you who are at home on Zoom, I remind you that you can communicate with us through the chat function. You won't see yourself. It's a different kind of Zoom meeting than you may be used to. But you can ask questions of us through that chat function. And that will include asking questions of our presenters when the time comes later in the meeting. If you have any technical questions at all, you can ask at any time during the chat, and Courtney or Brett will help you. I think mostly it's Brett that's doing that. Courtney is doing that right now. And I understand that there is a little bit of an echo on Zoom, and I'm afraid there's not much we can do about that. If we were all here and we had this hall filled, that wouldn't be happening. I'm very pleased to report that as a result of our May meeting, we gave $17,233.62 to Annette Pierce support. As well as $905 to Keene High School project graduation and $550 to Feeding Tiny Tummies. Since our inception in November of 2016, we have given a total of $342,636 to 22 chosen organizations and an additional $19,461 to 32 organizations which were nominated but not chosen, for a grand total of $362,098. For those of you who regularly attend meetings, you know that at this point, I usually go through a thank you to our steering committee and a list of 6 reminders about our group and how it works. I know it gets a little repetitious, it does for us too. So instead this evening, I'd like to raise some of those points and with you explore our website. Answers to many of the questions that we get in between meetings can be found right there. So I think Brett's going to do a screen share for those of you on Zoom, and the rest of you can look up behind me. And I'm going to move this way so that I can see the screen as well. So can you hear me from here?
Yes.
Okay, great. So our website address, 100+WomenCheshireCounty.com. That's 100+, WomenCheshireCounty.com. And here you are on our homepage where you're greeted by our steering committee. Though I have to say, in preparing for this evening, I realized we need an updated photo of us. Left to right is Courtney Fougere.
Yay.
Oh, it's more of you, it's more of you on the screen. Yay. No, there's more of you on the screen than I saw on my computer. Oh, that's great. And Courtney is our Zoom, MailChimp database and tech guru, as well as our marvelous name tag manager. So she wears a lot of hats. Next to her is Rhonda Lake, who moved and is no longer with the steering committee. Then there's me, and then Brett Thielen, who manages our Facebook page and this comprehensive website that we're exploring this evening. Lisa is next, Lisa Marr, who liaises with our meeting venues, and when we fully meet in person, coordinates volunteers for setup, cleanup, and refreshments. I don't want to have my back to you. I'm not sure quite how to make all this happen. Bridget Hansel, who vets the nomination and welcomes each new member with a warm and informative email, is next. And not on the photo are Mary Delisle and Judith Putzel. Mary organizes our big check presentations, which is like herding cats, and photos, and sends out the press releases, as well as serves as our historian. Judith tracks our petty cash account and gives presentations about us to service clubs and other community groups. Jointly, we make the practical decisions of how our chapter runs, carefully weighing each member's suggestion, thoughtfully analyzing every bump in the road, carefully listening to all perspectives before reaching consensus on the decisions that we make to try to make 100+ Women Who Care Cheshire County the very best we can be. Below the photo is a concise statement of who we are and what we do. Then below that, depending on our quarter or on where we are in the quarterly cycle, scrolling down the home page will tell you if it's before an upcoming meeting, when the next meeting is. Remember, we meet the first Monday of February, May, August, and November, always. And also tells you when nominations are due, 8 days before the meeting, always. How to send a check in advance if you can't attend, or just after meetings, it will tell you which organization was chosen and how you can make an online donation as well as send a check. Scrolling down further on the homepage, you see past meeting notices, lists of the chosen organizations, and some fun big check presentation photos. We go back to the, did you get to some of the photos, Brett?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. So if you go back to the tabs at the top, the next tab says About. Oh, there's one. Sure, we're going to give Brett a minute to catch up here. And if you scroll down further, you'll see a whole lot of those photos, and they are fun to see. So back at the top, the next tab says About, and that explains that we are part of over 700 groups in the 100+ Who Care Alliance, and it includes a link to that alliance, which is has some good information. And if you ever talk to friends from another part of the country and they're interested, you can refer them there and they can look it up and see if there's a 100+ chapter near them. And also there is our email address. The next tab is the How It Works tab, which gives a brief description of our process, reminds you not to make checks out to us, don't make checks out to 100+ Women Who Care, but rather to the organizations directly, and has a brief 1-minute video explaining the concept of 100 Who Care collective giving, which is a really useful tool if you're trying to share information with a friend about how we work. That video came from the Alliance, and in that video, they're talking to a group that makes $100 their quarterly donation amount. So just know that we are still at 50 and we'll stay there. Also on this tab are frequently asked questions with detailed answers. How do I nominate an organization? Once a nonprofit program has been chosen, how long do I have to wait before I can nominate again? If a nonprofit program has been presented but not chosen, how long do I have to wait before I can nominate again? Which organizations can be considered? Some things about 501c3s and tax deductibility. How are organizations chosen? Can I give more than $50 a meeting? What if I already donate to an organization and it's chosen? So there's lots of answers there. And if you want something added on that page, we're actually very happy to do that. The next tab is the Nonprofit tab. Nonprofit tab. And there are two choices on the drop down there. One is everything you need to know about making a nomination and a link to the nomination forms. Remember, only members can make nominations and only members can present nominations at a meeting. Remember that the two organizations which present but are not chosen must skip a meeting before they are allowed to submit a nomination again. And then the other thing in that tab, the other thing in the drop down, is a list of organizations that we have supported since our inception. I get this question from time to time, usually at least once a quarter, so they're all listed right there. The next tab is the Join tab. Simple enough, as you would expect. It tells you how you can join with a link to the commitment form that you need to complete in order to become a member. And the next one is the Contact tab, giving both our email and SNAMail addresses, as well as a link to our Facebook page and a link on how to join our email list. And in case you want to know a second time how to find our Facebook, you can look at the Facebook tab, which will take you directly there. We're not going to do the Facebook tab? Okay. Okay. And then in case you missed that, the link to join our email list, we make it even easier by putting it up on a tab, and there you fill that out, and lo and behold, you will hear from us. Okay? Brett did a fabulous job designing this website and does a wonderful job of keeping both the website and our Facebook page updated. She will have this meeting's news posted by tomorrow morning. She does a great job. So thank you, Brett, for all of that. I have one special announcement this evening, and that is that our next meeting is Monday, November 7th. And this space will not be available for us because the next day is election day, and this is a polling place, so they will need to be setting up for the election. We are welcome to go back to St. George's. We have not made that decision as a final decision yet. So keep your eyes peeled for your announcement of the November meeting and pay close attention to the location. And so I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of that. And now for this evening's nominations. Each quarter, we receive nominations of wonderful organizations and programs that serve our vulnerable citizens and animal friends, enrich our children and the entire community through arts and through connection to the natural world around us, or strengthen our local safety nets and resources. I love that we have organizations nominated for the first time at each and every meeting. You will note that some have been nominated previously. Our policy is that a chosen organization has to wait at least 2 years before they put another nomination in. One of the many things that makes our group shine is that at each and every meeting, all of you arrive with your minds and hearts open, anxious to learn which 3 organizations will be chosen to present. Listen carefully to the presenters, ask intelligent questions, make your choice, and then celebrate together the organization that's chosen. We received 6 nominations for this evening's consideration. And since we're here in person, we'll choose the 3 to present right now. I will read the nominations first. I'll read them all.
I'll sit down.
Hand to Heart, nominated by Pat Barber. Hand to Heart Project provides free in-home massage and compassionate touch to people with cancer. We seek funding to support that work as it continues to expand in Cheshire County. 100 Nights. Mindy Cambiar made the nomination, and if chosen, Sarah Bear and Mindy will present. 100 Nights provides shelter and crisis-related services to those at risk of or experiencing homelessness. We seek funding for the construction of our new emergency shelter and resource center in Keene. Monadnock United Way's Impact Monadnock Pyramid Model Team, nominated by Alicia Deaver. Impact Monadnock supports early childhood success. We seek funding to improve the social and emotional competence of young children by expanding pyramid model in local child care centers across the region. MoCo Arts, nominated by Christina Gullah. Catherine Richardson will present. MoCo Arts provides year-round nonprofit arts education for children ages 18 months to 18 plus years. We seek funding for annual tuition assistance for families in need and to supplement decreased enrollment revenue during COVID. Project Home, nominated by Susan Hay. Project Home provides a community-based alternative to detention for asylum seekers seeking safe harbor at our borders. Asylum seekers live with host families while preparing and presenting their case, and we help them become independent community members. Court-appointed Special Advocates, CASA of New Hampshire, nominated by Allison Riley. Court-appointed Special Advocates, CASA of New Hampshire, is an organization or program which provides a voice to the victimized children of New Hampshire. It seeks funding for the recruitment and training of new CASA volunteer advocates in Cheshire County. So it's a wonderful, wonderful slate of nominations. Thank you to all who put those in. And now, Mary, your moment. Mary has each one of those listed on a slip of paper, and will ask 3 people to draw them. And if you'll read them in order as you get them. Drum roll.
Casa.
Casa.
Project Home.
Project Home,
100 Nights.
100 Nights. So we're going to have those people come up in order. I don't need to come up in between. I want you to speak into the microphone, and right here is a camera. That's the one that, if you look in that camera, then you're looking directly at the people at home on Zoom. If you'll please introduce yourself. And Mary has a dual role over here. She's our timekeeper. You have 5 minutes to present, and we are strict about this. And she'll hold up a 1-minute warning, and then she'll hold up a 30-second warning, and then we're going to cut you off. And then you will have 5 minutes for Q&A. And please repeat the question that you get for Q&A before you answer it, because the Zoom people can't hear a thing. And in fact, most of the people in the back probably won't hear it at all. So let's start with Casa.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jane, and thanks to all of you for all the ways that you touch and impact folks in our community. I'm proud to be part of this group of women and appreciate the opportunity to talk with you this evening. My name is Allison Riley, and I'm here representing CASA of New Hampshire, court-appointed special advocates. CASA is headquartered in Manchester, New Hampshire, but there are regional offices attached to family courts all across the state. I am a program manager in the Keene Regional Office. CASA of New Hampshire is a statewide nonprofit that recruits, trains, and supervises volunteers to advocate on behalf of the best interests of the state's abused and neglected children. Volunteer advocates are assigned by the court to work with a child or sibling group who come to the attention of the court through no fault of their own. We serve on cases where children have been victimized by their parents or caregivers. There are approximately 600 CASA volunteers who currently provide this critical advocacy across our state. Last year, 39 of those volunteers served 110 children right here in Cheshire County. Unfortunately, due to a shortage of volunteers in our area, we had to refuse 22% of the cases the court brought to us that same year. In order for us to meet 100% of the need in Cheshire County, CASA needs to continuously recruit and train volunteers, so we have a pool of advocates available. I'd like to share one family story to show why CASA volunteers are so critical. In this family, there's a sibling group of 3. Neighbors called the police after observing that the 2-year-old was unsupervised and wandering dangerously close to a busy street in front of her home. Upon police arrival, the mother was found unresponsive in the home, and the father was found unresponsive in a parked car with drug paraphernalia present. The older 2 children had not yet returned from school. In this example, the mother and father are struggling with significant substance abuse issues, which limits their ability to parent and creates ongoing safety issues for their children. The oldest child is in middle school and is often put in charge of her 2 younger siblings. She helps supervise homework or make sure they're fed. She takes on the role of parent and at times cares for them at the expense of caring for herself. She's absent more than she's present at school and is falling behind. The middle child's in 3rd grade and is struggling to keep up. School has identified academic and behavioral challenges that need to be addressed and wants to schedule an evaluation, but parents aren't responding to requests and aren't involved. So he's falling behind and is at risk for being held back a grade. And then finally, there's the youngest child who was left unsupervised and risked being injured or worse had the neighbors not intervened. She's left in a dirty diaper for long periods of time, isn't getting doctor's visits she needs, and isn't on track developmentally, but no one's noticing. These children are experiencing neglect in a variety of ways and are significantly impacted by their parents' substance abuse issues. In order to ensure that their needs are met, a caring adult needs to speak on their behalf. CASA volunteers build rapport with the child by visiting them once a month. They gather information about the child's life based on their own interactions and conversations with the important adults in the child's life, like counselors, teachers, and doctors. Then they provide that information to the family court judge who hears the case. The CASA becomes a trusted, consistent presence in the child's life and stays on the case until it closes. Our goal is to have trained volunteers ready to accept 100% of the Cheshire County cases that come in from the court. We do not want to say no to any child. When CASAs are involved in a child's case, they ensure the best possible outcome for those children. When we must refuse a case, the court has to assign a paid guardian ad litem, and they are only required to see the child once per year. A donation from 100+ Women Who Care would provide us with the funds needed to recruit and train approximately 9 CASA volunteers and get us ever closer to meeting that 100% of need in Cheshire County. A typical volunteer advocate will advocate for an average of 3 years and take between 2 and 3 cases per year. To meet the need, we aim to have 10 to 12 new CASAs join us each year. Thank you so much for your consideration. Know that your donation to CASA will help change a child's story. Thank you. We invite my colleague from CASA, Tara Bergeron, is with me today, and she's our development associate at the organization, and she's going to help me to field questions.
Maybe we can just remind people they can chat, they can type their questions if they're on Zoom.
If you're on Zoom and you have a question for us, you can go ahead and put that in the chat. Thanks, Courtney.
So I have a question. How would CASA use the donation from 100+ Women to recruit and train volunteers? What does the budget look like?
Okay, do you want to repeat the question? Absolutely. So the question is, how would 100+ Women's donation be used by CASA? And that would be, as we stated, to recruit, and that's our biggest, need is to get the word of CASA out there. We'd use the funds to purchase radio spots and media advertisements, get our name in the papers and the advertisement sections. Anywhere we can, we would have our outreach coordinators working in the Cheshire County specifically to get the need for CASA to the ears of people who can serve. Can also mention, just as a piece of that as well, that we provide a very intensive and significant training program. CASAs go through a 40-hour training before they start with us. So part of the funding would go for that effort as well.
My question was going to be, many hours was the training? But you just answered. Okay.
Thank you. We have a question down here in front. Right?
What is the goal, the end goal of CASA, to get the children out of that situation, out of the home?
Yeah. So the question was, what is the end goal of CASA, correct? The end goal is we always strive for reunification with the family. No matter what they've been through, these kids want to go home to their parents. And so the CASA is working alongside DCYF to make sure that their parents are hitting those milestones to get the help that they need so that these kids can go home. In the event that can't happen or the case is too severe, the CASA will then, after a year, advocate for adoption. And so these children will move to a foster home with the hopes that they will be adopted quickly.
I've got an online question. With 3 children, is one volunteer assigned to each child, or is it per family?
Do I need to repeat that question, Courtney? So the question was, when there are 3 children, like in the example that I gave, would there be one volunteer assigned? And the answer is yes. So when a case comes in from the court and I'm assigning it, it can be any number of children. We have cases with 1 child all the way up to currently 6. And a volunteer advocate would advocate for all of those kids in that family.
How long is the average case?
So the question was, how long is the average case? When we recruit volunteers, we tell folks a year to 2 years. The permanency timeline for a child is 12 months. But by the time, as Tara mentioned, that there's adoption-related pieces and some of that, it can go on longer than that, depending on the case. It looks like we have 1 minute left. Are there any other questions? Somebody in the back there.
What is the time commitment for the advocate? Is there
So the question was, what is the time commitment for the advocate? Again, it depends on the month, but we tell people to that on average, it's 10 to 15 hours a month commitment. So it is definitely a high commitment volunteer opportunity. But again, the people that do come in to the work typically stay for an average of 3 years. So we're very fortunate in that way. And it's the time. Is there one more question?
There's one more online. Are there success stories?
So the question was, are there success stories? There are tons of success stories. Yes, there are. And again, as Tara alluded to, lots of children are returned and reunited with their parents. They receive the supports that they need during the time that they're involved with the court. And that is a huge success story. And for those kiddos who can't go home to their own folks, there are many adoptive families in our communities that take those children in and provide permanent situations. And those are equally successful. So, yes. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hello, I am so glad to be here. My name is Susan Hay, and I am one of the founding members of Project Home. And as you saw from our mission, we bring asylum seekers from detention or down by the border or in dire straits. We bring them to our communities. They live with host families, sometimes, for somewhere between a year and maybe a year and a half, while their legal case is going through the court system. We started in 2019, and you'll remember that time as kids in cages and how much despair we were all feeling about what was happening, to families and children who came here. And so a small group, and this is almost always how it happens, a small group, 3 or 4 people, and then 6 people, and then 8 people, trying to figure out what can we do? And if these families don't belong in detention, where do they belong? And we said, well, they belong in our communities. And there's no reason why communities like Keene can't accept somewhere between 5, around 5 families or individuals and see them through this process and through their adjustment to having left everything they know and being in a foreign country and trying to pursue their legal cases. Our model is that they go with a host family. We provide a team leader and a team to support that host family, so not all the responsibility is weighted on whoever's decided to open their home. And I'd like to and our first family came here in February of 2020, and you'll remember what happened in March of 2020. The pandemic hit. So this work of people opening their homes, people coming with great trauma and difficulty occurred in the middle, has unfolded in the middle of a pandemic. I'd like to talk to you about Project Home by introducing you to Kenya. Kenya is a young mother. When she decided she had to flee Honduras at the age of 20, she came with her 3 sisters, 10 to 14 years old, her 2 children. They walked 8 months to get from where they were in Honduras to the Mexican and US border. They were then had to wait in Mexico for 6 months in very dangerous situations. Along the journey, she became pregnant and she had a baby the day after she came into the United States. When she came into the United States, into detention, she was separated from her sisters, which was traumatic for everyone, and only had her children with her. She joined us in October of 2020, living in Gilsum with a host family, almost no English, and none of her children had any English. So it was challenging, lots of need to work with Google translators and other translators, lots of, adjusting for the host family to, we have 3 children here now. But they made adjustments on all sides and did absolutely marvelous work together, as all our host families have. And I just want to say, we have not yet had to go find host families. Host families have come to us and said, I'm interested in what you're doing. I'd like to think about being a host family. We get lawyers immediately. The medical system here has opened their arms and see our asylum seekers, pro bono. The children arrive at school and are thriving. And one definition that will be one of my definitions of courage for the rest of my life is a 7-year-old who does not speak the language, getting on a school bus, her 3rd day in this community and going to school. I can see that child's face. Fast forward, Kenya is now, after 2 years in this country, absolutely fluent in English. Her case moved through the legal system. She got her work authorization. She got a driver's license and a job, saved money to buy a car. And last month, her case was settled legally. So our first case, they won't all be that easy, but our first case was won. We have 15 guests in our community, 8 children and 7 adults, all went in hosting situations, all have graduated from those. And I only have 30 seconds left, so I will tell you that although there's not anything like a typical immigrant story, we know that it costs about $15,000 to support a family in that first year until they can be more out on their own. So if we are so lucky to receive this donation from 100 Women Who Care, we will use the money to bring our next family. We are ready now. Our guests have moved out and we are ready to bring our next family. Phew. Thank you very much. That's okay. That's okay. Under the wire. I would love to answer questions.
What other types of funding do you currently have?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
What other types of funding do you currently have?
That's a great question. We are a nonprofit. Say that again. Oh, the question was, what other types of funding do we have? We have a very strong donor base. Our board is 100% donating. Our community, the broader community, donates, very kindly to us. We have 5 donors that donate multiple years. So we are confident. Our goal is to bring 2 families here, hopefully by the end of the year. The timing always ebbs and flows. But we are confident if we can receive this guest, we have the funding to support another one.
Sue, how do you choose the individuals or the families who come to this area?
Yeah, great question, Rebecca. The question is, how do we choose the families? Our mantra is, our first question is, can we provide what this family needs? Do we have the resources in our community, to do that? Does the person bring issues that we believe are beyond our capability? And beyond that, families have come to, have been introduced to us at the border, in this community. Other men, school systems have told us, oh my God, there's somebody here, they're in dire straits. We also, we're supporting their asylum case, so they have to want to be seeking asylum. Some people are here and, that is not what they want. So that has to be part of the picture. Does that answer it, Rebecca? Okay.
An online question, when you say they graduate, what does that mean?
They are able to support themselves independently. I'm sorry. What does it mean when they graduate? I mean, there's 2 components to that. They are able to support themselves independently and their legal case is resolved. before their legal case is resolved, often they will be fully independent from us from a financial point of view, but not necessarily. We will continue the legal support till that is resolved.
So might go back to a two-part question. One, how do folks get in touch with you if they are wishing to be host families? And then how do you vet these people?
Yeah.
To ensure that they are the right folks?
That is, thank you for that question. So the question is, how do host families get in touch with us, and then how do we vet them? You can talk to me tonight. Obviously, I will hang around, but you can also go to our website, and there is a section for people that are interested to being a host family. We do a fairly significant, we do background checks for any volunteer that works with our asylum seeking guests or for a host family. We do a background check. We also ask for community references, and we do some extensive interviewing with them to be sure that they have you can prepare all you want and it's still an adventure, but to be sure that they understand some of the challenges that they might face in this process, so that we can fully support them in that.
An online question real quick is, can you give specifics about how the money will be spent to support the families?
Yeah, sure, specifics on how the money will be spent to support a family. Every family is different in terms of the needs. We had one family who drove from Texas to Keene in the middle of the winter, in the middle of snowstorms, without the right clothes. And we had to pay for them to stay in hotels, to have food, that kind of thing. Often in the beginning, people they need to fly to us. They need transportation to lawyers' appointments and things like that. Also, the host families understand that they are contributing to this process, and often they cover all the costs for our guests, when they're living with them. But sometimes we had a family of 5 from Mexico, and it was a young couple that took them in, and it was more expensive than they could manage. And so we augmented, what they were capable of doing, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Mindy Gambiar from 100 Nights. Unfortunately, Sarah Barrett was not able to attend tonight. This is also the first time I've ever had to wear glasses to do this kind of thing. So, 100 Nights opened in 2010 as a cold weather shelter and daytime drop-in center to provide shelter during the coldest 100 nights of the year. The first year, 100 Nights sheltered 96 unique individuals from across Cheshire County. In 2021, we provided shelter to 233 unique individuals and served an additional 204 unique individuals in the resource center. This past winter, we sheltered an unprecedented 72 people at one time in the Lamson Street facility, the converted coach bus, and the leased hotel rooms combined, including 10 families with 22 children. One family came to us after living in an abandoned city express type bus without heat, electricity, or running water. The single parent was working full-time and was being charged $500 a month to live there. People become homeless for many reasons, from the lack of affordable housing, to mental illness, to substance misuse disorders, to catastrophic illness, natural disasters, and unemployment or low-paying jobs. You'd think after 40 years I would learn how to public speak. In 2021, the vacancy rate in Cheshire County for a 2-bedroom apartment was 0.7%. By comparison, a healthy market has a vacancy rate of 4 to 5%. The effects of the pandemic have made it even harder for people to find places to live. There are some landlords who are either selling their homes and evicting people or doing minor renovations, evicting people and raising the rent, usually by several $100s. I don't begrudge that to people. We need some affordable housing also. For the first time in its history, 100 Nights has sheltered people for over a year because housing has been so difficult to find. We had one family at the hotel this winter that saved as much as $5,000. Both parents were working, but they couldn't find an apartment until April. We nominated 100 Nights as we long ago outgrew the current facility on Lamson Street, and we are in the midst of a $6.2 million capital campaign to build an emergency shelter and resource center on Water Street in Keene to have everything under one roof. This started in 2016 when we began to see a significant increase in the number of families needing shelter. We went from sheltering 5 families with 14 children in 2016 to 15 families with 26 children in 2022. Wow, the new building will have 4 private rooms for families in their own wing in a loft section of the second floor of the shelter. There will be a place for any children who need a table to sit at to do homework or play. There'll be a small library for them. Instead of 2 large dormitory rooms, there will be 8 smaller rooms, each with 2 to 4 beds and a bathroom to mitigate the spread of any virus. Each floor will have washer and dryer units to do laundry every day. Some of those we already have, thanks to 100+Women. There is an elevator that can accommodate a stretcher in the event of a medical emergency, and there will be 2 handicapped accessible shelter rooms on the first floor. The first floor will be home to the resource center and the hub for supportive services, offices for case managers to meet privately with guests, a multi-purpose resource center with computer workstations, a laundry room to do personal laundry, a full kitchen to provide meals when the community kitchen isn't open, and a donation room for clothing and personal care items. Tonight, we ask for your support to help build this much needed facility. We have raised over $5.1 million to date, approximately 83% of the total goal, and we need the community's help to ensure that we can make this building a reality. I don't know if you've driven by Water Street, but the foundation is poured and they are installing the connections to the street for water, electric, and sewer. I'm pretty excited about that. Anyway, thank you all for those of you who have already generously supported and those of you who hopefully will. Thank you. Now I can take questions, hopefully with not a shaky voice.
What is the average stay for folks who are in your shelter?
The question was, what is the average length of stay for people in a shelter? In past years, pre-COVID, I would have said 3 to 6 months. And now we have one gentleman who's been there since 2021. And he is a 79-year-old veteran with multiple mobility issues, and he really should be in a much safer place, but we can't find him.
How many clients are in the new facility? How many people serve next family members as far as individual space?
The question was how many people will we be able to serve in the new building? We are planning on 48 beds in the facility. It will be the same number that we had when pre-COVID, when we were able to do 12 people each at the United Church of Christ and at St. James.
Anything online?
No. Thank you.
Beyond the money that you need for this building, one of the ways that we help.
The question was, what other ways can you help? Well, we're trying to go back to pre-COVID skill building workshops for people. That's one way. If anybody has any skills or abilities to help teach classes to people, small groups, in budgeting, financial management, nutritional cooking, things like that. We're always looking for that kind of help. We're looking for people who can help us run errands, like going to the post office or the bank. At the moment, I have 2 administrative assistants out, so if anybody likes to type letters and such, we hope to, when we're in the new building, reinstate the having volunteers in the evening for the intake shift at the shelter itself, and also helping with preparing meals.
What's the timing? When do you hope to be able to be in the building?
The question was, what is the timing and when do we hope to be in the building? So my owner's rep keeps telling me that we should be finished with the project, the construction project, by the end of January. I don't believe that for a second. So I'm hoping that we can move in April.
Wow, 3 marvelous organizations and 3 excellent presentations. Thank you to all 3 of you, and thank you to those who made nominations and weren't chosen. Hopefully next time. If you are on Zoom, you should see a poll appear on your screen momentarily. You have 3 minutes to submit your choice, and don't forget to click the submit button. If you're here, take your ballot out of your name tag. It's a brightly colored ballot, carefully inserted by Courtney in each and every name tag, every meeting. Thank you. And write only one choice, please, only one. And some of the steering committee are going to circulate the room with baskets, and you can put your choice in the basket. While we collect and tally the votes, I'd like to introduce 100+ Women Who Care member Marion LaFrancois to tell us how our donations made a difference to MCVP, and that was the group that was chosen by us in February. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of MCVP. I'm a former board member and current chair of the advisory committee. And as you probably all know, MCVP is the Crisis and Prevention Center for domestic violence, sexual violence, stalking, and human sex trafficking, which is serving 44 towns in the Monadnock region. And we sincerely thank 100+ Women Who Care for the $18,000 that was awarded to MCVP in March of this year. Many survivors who flee domestic violence do so with very little in the way of personal belongings, access to bank accounts or credit cards, and other resources that many folks take for granted. The Economic Justice Fund, which was where the $18,000 was applied, assists survivors to get back on their feet and begin the journey to become thrivers. From January to June of this year, we have helped 12 survivors with close to $9,500 of monetary support. The support was in the form of hotel stays, gas, grocery, department store gift cards, rent, utilities, and deposits on new housing, car repairs, and other economic necessities. One of the survivors that was helped is an individual who had been working with the advocates at MCVP for a couple of years regarding her marriage to an individual who was causing her harm. The survivor sought out support and validation from MCVP, as well as assistance with housing applications and gas cards where they were needed. She was leaving a lengthy marriage. Something like that is never easy.
This survivor had utilized the short-term hotel stays that she was granted money for as respite while waiting for her number to rise to the top of the housing list. And that took a long time. When it finally occurred this year, she was more than ready, but she met some financial barriers due to the issues with finances in her marriage. Through the Economic Justice Fund, MCVP was able to provide the first month's rent and the security deposit, total of $292. To a lot of people, that's not a lot of money, but to this woman, it made all the difference. And from her perspective, without MCVP, she wouldn't be able to be out of the situation that she had endured for so long. Due to the state of the economy and the lack of housing, we anticipate the number of survivors we support through the Economic Justice Fund will increase in the second half of this year. The work that MCVP does with economic justice and empowerment has been facilitated through Allstate's foundations, financial literacy curriculum, and our Housing First program. According to the Allstate Foundation, 98% of domestic abuse cases include some form of financial abuse. And this prevents victims from leaving their situation. MCVP advocates leverage as many resources as are available to them to address the barriers to economic stability and safety for the clients. And despite the various tools and resources available, there are often gaps. And the gap of immediate financial assistance for something like a security deposit is the type of gap that is filled through the economic justice system that we have. So this monetary support is key component to folks being independent and safe. And your collective donations have helped us to close this gap for this woman and many other survivors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you to CBP for all the wonderful work that you do for people in our community. In a moment, I will announce the organization you have chosen this evening. Depending on which organization is chosen, you may have an option of either making an online donation or writing a check and sending it to me. A link to the online donation page of the chosen organization will be in tomorrow's email to all members and on our website. If you make an online donation, and many of our members are choosing this option, please know that most organizations will be charged a service fee, typically around 3%, though this varies organization to organization. So that means for a $50 donation, they will get $48.50. So a lot of our members have added that extra $1.50 to their donation, which means that the organizations will get the benefit of a full $50 donation. If you make an online donation, make sure you put your name on the form when you make the donation. In addition to that, there may be an option like for some information or something else to indicate that you're from 100+, but don't write 100+ as the donor, because then we have no idea who you are, we don't know how to credit you, we don't know how to thank you. If you choose to send a check, please make it out to the selected organization and not to 100+Women and mail it to me. You will see my address on the screen shortly. You can always find it on the website, as you saw this morning or this evening on your little website tour. And it will also be in the email tomorrow. We will then keep track of who's donated and get the donations to the organization. Our policy is that the recipient organization is required to agree that they will not add your name to any of their mailing lists, though they will have your contact information so they can acknowledge your donation through us. If they violate that agreement, they will not be considered for a future gift from us ever. That rule still applies. But if you make your on-time donation, please know that there is a chance, and this has happened only once and we corrected it quickly, then the organization may not know that you're part of 100 plus, and you kind of inadvertently get put on their list. So if that happens to you, let us know, because we will fix that. And remember, you're welcome to make a donation for more than $50. There is no organization that objects to that. And you can always write a check for one or both of the organizations that presented this evening but are not chosen. And in fact, we have people who make donations to nominated organizations that didn't even present. You are very generous women. So mark your calendars for November 7th and keep an eye out for where the location will be. And now, drum roll. Oh, I like the sound effects. The honored organization this evening is CASA. Congratulations. Thank you all for being with us this evening in person, and on Zoom, and we'll see you in November.